Well, hello everybody and welcome to our Friday live stream. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know what the weather's like with you today, but it's miserable here. So hopefully I'm going to bring some sunshine and some brightness into your day and try and do the same here. Anyway, for those of you who haven't met us before, my name is Debbie. I tend to do the demonstration work and I'm very much this side of the camera. And my colleague, who you will hear but you won't see, not she has her way anyway, that's Laura.
Hi there.
So today we're going to create a bridal headdress, so suitable for a bride or for a bridesmaid. We're going to make it out of dried products. So I've prepared a few wired items here, as you can see. Obviously it's a little bit time consuming, so I didn't want you to have to sit and wait and watch me laboriously wiring everything. So I've done that little bit first. So I'm just going to scoot those out of the way for now, just so that I can give you an idea on how to do the wiring. Slightly different techniques involved in various products that I'm using. I should actually describe the ingredients really. So we've got some preserved eucalyptus. I've got some preserved eucalyptus, I think this is cinerea, and I've got some preserved eucalyptus nicoleae. I've also got some dried poppy seed heads, which are actually quite interesting because they've got a bit of a sound to those, almost like a maracas. I know, this is how my brain works. Got some dried wheat, some dried little peppers, some pheasant feathers, some dried orange slices, and some dried cones. Now the little cones, the orange slices and the peppers all come in a really lovely dried cone and berry mix, which you can find on our website. They come in a bag of mixed products. So that's a really useful item, and all the bits that you don't actually use for this kind of design, you can actually wire up and put onto your wreaths at Christmas. Yes, because it's getting that time of the year. I've been banned from using this C word, but one of my colleagues here who've just taken delivery of a lot of Christmas products and started to sing. It's beginning to look a lot like Christmas, so I think I'm allowed to mention the C word now. So with the eucalyptus cinerea, I've just literally, I don't know if you can see what I'm doing now, I've literally put almost like a hairpin around the bottom leaf and then doing a single leg mount like that. And then I'm just going to cover my mechanics, excuse me, and just cover that with some parafilm. There we go. Now with the dried fruit slices, these ones are, looks like a lime actually, but it might be a green lemon. Just literally pierce the flesh, keeping the rind as your support to twist against. And I've used a double leg mount on that. Now the reason for that is simply because a single leg mount doesn't have quite so much support in the single wire as a double leg mount would. So it's almost like providing double the weight wire wise. Okay, so nice and sturdy. Then we have the little pepper. Cruelly, I'm just going to pierce the pepper. And then,
What wire are you using, Debbie?
oh, these are a silver rose wire. This one is a 0.28 by 180. Or is it a 0.32? Let me just double check on that. Yep, 32, sorry. 0.32 plus 180. We do sell them in little mini packs on our website. So if you don't want to buy the big kilogram bundle, then you can buy a slightly smaller alternative. So depending on obviously what you're going to create, depending on how many wires that you're going to need, the decision is yours. Okay, so with the little cone, in between the little ridges, I'm just going to place a silver wire, bring the two ends of the wire together, through the ridges, and then just twist together. And again, just cover that tape, cover that wire with some parafilm tape. Now you can employ exactly the same wiring technique for the larger cones if you're using them for your Christmas holly wreaths. which is a good opportunity for me to mention that actually all of the ingredients that you need are on our website now. Spruce foliage and Christmas foliage will be available the end of October, beginning of November. But all of the ingredients you need to make your Christmas holly wreaths, sundries wise, are available on our website now, so go and have a quick look. And my understanding is we've got several demonstrations lined up for you in the future to show you all sorts of different type of wreaths that you can create for Christmas, so stay tuned. So with the wheat, it's just a single leg mount as before, and again taping. So that's all there is to it for the wiring techniques. Now I'm just going to put them all together. Now I've got a 71 by 260 stub wire here, which I've actually taped together to give you your stay wire. Obviously measure that to the length that you need for the head. So what I would recommend is using something to measure your head size. Don't use something that's stretchy because you're going to get a false reading. And then offer that up to the wire so you make sure that you have the right wire length.
So would you probably say something like string?
Yeah, anything really that's not going to stretch, simply because, you know, if you stretch it around the head and then you measure it, it's obviously going to shrink. So yeah, cotton string or something like that that's not going to stretch, or even a piece of ribbon, satin ribbon would work because that won't stretch, so that would be fine. Okay. Otherwise you get a false idea of size. So I'm going to start by taping some pieces of the eucalyptus first of all, leaving the end of the stay wire. So I'm actually going to link that up with the other end eventually.
So whilst you're doing that, Debbie, I'll do a few shout outs.
Excellent.
Lots of lovely people joined us today who've commented already. We've got Deborah who says, "I'm sorry I'm late." You can be as late as you want, though.
As long as you join us, that's fine.
So we've also got Terry and Mark joined us. We've got Vicky from Melbourne in Australia. Terry says it's awful weather where he is, so hopefully we can bring the sunshine. I don't know if that's possible, but we'll try. Yeah.
We'll bring smiley faces, so hopefully that will...
We've got Charlie who says, "Hello ladies, lovely to see you, very rainy in Brighton." We do have Keith from Portugal. I hope it's sunny in Portugal, watching whilst I'm working here this week. So thank you for joining us from Portugal.
I think they've actually had a heat wave in Portugal, so I would imagine that he's probably enjoying some fantastic weather.
We've got Josie, Julie, Anya, Josie watching from Australia. So lovely to see you all, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow, we've got a real international audience today. That's amazing. Okay.
So what are you doing, Debbie?
So I've started to build up the headpiece. I'm just literally taping in the pieces of eucalyptus rather than wiring them, because it gives you a little bit more flexibility on where you can place it. And then I've basically started to build up the design. So it's kind of balanced, really. It doesn't need to be balanced. It depends on the look that you're going for. I mean, something like this is really suitable for an autumn or a bohemian, rustic style wedding. And the beauty of it is you can make it up in advance. So all of these dried items can be wired, made up in advance. You can actually make the headdress itself up in advance. So if you're a DIY bride, it's going to ring all of the success bells for you, because it's something you can do in advance. You haven't got to stress about it on the day. You can pop it into a nice box. I would pop it into a nice dry box, lined box, with some tissue paper, then leave it to one side until the big day, and you haven't got to worry about it. So a really, really useful design to make if you're a DIY brider. Also, because it's dried, you can actually use it as a keepsake afterwards. So you could potentially hang it on your wall like you would a wreath. So yeah, a really useful design to create, I think. Also, because it's dried products rather than fresh, you tend to get a slightly more muted tone, so it tends to be a little bit more subtle possibly in its colouring. So, yeah.
If you were to create the items with fresh foliage, so you've obviously got eucalyptus nicolai and cinerea, how far in advance would you suggest to make up this headdress?
Oh gosh, that's a hard one. Ideally on the morning of the wedding, really. The thing is, you do lose an awful lot of heat from your head, especially if you're nervous. If you're apprehensive, you lose heat from your hands and from your head especially. So as you can appreciate, most brides tend to be a little bit anxious on their wedding day. It's only natural. Exactly, it's only natural. So having fresh flowers in your hair, yeah, they're not, it is possible, but they're not going to have a long shelf life. You'll probably have them for your photographs and perhaps for your wedding breakfast, but by the time the evening gets around, they're going to be starting to fade quite considerably, especially if it's the height of the summer and it's a hot day. So something like this would be a really good alternative, because obviously being dried products, they're not going to fade. So it doesn't matter how nervous you are, they're still going to look good.
So make sure you keep asking those questions. We know we've got lovely people watching us. So make sure you ask anything about this arrangement or even about dried products, Christmas, as we're allowed to talk about Christmas now.
The floodgates have opened.
We'd love to hear from you, so make sure you write in the comment box below.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question, Debbie, whilst I'm thinking about it.
Sounds ominous.
I know you're using parafilm. Is parafilm quite difficult to work with? And also, can you use stem text as well? Okay,
so I'm personally somebody that prefers parafilm. I have to confess I'm a little bit old school, because when I did my training we used gutter coal, which is actually not really available anymore. So I've naturally gone on to parafilm to use. I find it absolutely brilliant, but if you are slightly inexperienced or if you haven't worked with some of the stem tapes before, it does take a little bit of time to get used to, because it has huge stretching qualities, as you can see, and it's not sticky. The reason why it does stick to itself is because you stretch it and then bind it around the wire. Now stem text is slightly more, it's a thicker consistency. It's a bit like crepe paper, but it is sticky. So if you have cold hands, then stem text would probably work better for you. Parafilm does rely a little bit on the warmth of your hands. If you get parafilm very, very cold, it will snap and break very easily. So if you've got cold hands as well, it's not easy to work with. So you kind of take your choice really. But yeah, I would certainly say if you have cold hands and it's not something that you're familiar with working with, I'd probably go for stem text. You can actually get stem text in different colours as well. You can get that in a brown and the moss green, whereas the parafilm is white or green. So I don't think...
Would you ever use the white? But I personally haven't seen you use the white. But if you're using speeder or something?
Yeah, I tend to use white if I'm doing cake flowers, simply because most cakes are white icing, and the parafilm doesn't show so much if you're wiring and taping for a cake. So yeah, I do use the white, but not quite as often as the green, to be fair. Right, so I'm just continuing to add all of the dried products in almost like a staggered formation. There's not really, to be honest, there's not really a particular theme or pattern to it, because the rustic kind of feel lends itself to being a little bit random, if I'm honest. So I haven't really set out to particularly create a set pattern on this. Now the lovely thing about wiring with dried products is you don't have to worry about them spinning on your workbench. If you're using white roses, obviously fresh ones, you wouldn't be able to do that because they would bruise so easily. So again, if you're not familiar with wiring techniques, you're not familiar with putting something like this together, then using dried products, even as almost like a trial run if you wish, is a really good idea. So just adding in a few more bits and pieces here. Thank you so much for joining us today. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more tips and hints and other inspirational ideas. Share us with your friends and like us. Keep those comments coming, and we look forward to welcoming you back again very soon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.